गिरिवरदारी जय गोपीचन वल्लभा गिरिवरदारी यशोदनंदन व्रजजन रंजन यशोदनंदन व्रजजन रंजन यमुनतीरा वनचारी यमुनतीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपीचन वल्लभा गिरिवरदारी जय गोपीचन वल्लभा गिरिवरदारी यशोदानंदन व्रजजन रंजन यशोदानंदन व्रजजन रंजन यमुनतीरा वनचारी यमुनतीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा श्रील प्रभुपदा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस प्रत्यक्ष स्तोत्र सदस्य ईश्वरन ग्रेसी भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी शिल प्रभुपाद की जय। इस्कॉन संस्थापकाचार्य शिल प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस प्रत्यक्ष स्तोत्र सदस्य भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम विश्वास लघु किशोरदास बाबू महाराज की जय। जय ओम विश्वास सच्चिदानंद सर भक्तिविनोद ठाकुर की जय। जय ओम विश्वास वैष्णव सद्भवन श्री जगन्नाथ दास महाराज की जय। जय श्री रूप सानंद भट्टर गुना श्री जी गोपाल भट्टदास अविनाश गोस्वामी प्रभु की जय। नमाचार्य श्रीलवदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से को शिक्षण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत दादा शिवासादि गौरव भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोकुल श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरिवर्धन की जय। श्री श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्र में दर्शन भगवान की जय। श्री मायापुर धाम की जय। श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय। कंकमाई की जय। मनमाई की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। तुलसी देवी की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव की जय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। इस्कॉन वर्तमान गुरुवंद की जय। समावेद भक्तवृंद की जय। गौरव प्रेमानंद हरि हरि बोल। All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Divim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nityaprayeshu Apatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtivi. Hare Krishna. Welcome you all to this Tuesday morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. Today we are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 18, Text 24 to Text 28. Text 24. Mainam Maya Vinam Driptam Nirankusham Asattamam Akrida Balavatteva Yata Shivisham Uttitam Mainam Maya Vinam Driptam Nirankusham Asattamam Akrida Balavaddeva Yata Shivisham Uttitam Mainam Mayabhinam Druptam Nirankusham Asattamam Akrida Balavaddeva Yata Shivisham Uttitam. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Lord Brahma continued, My dear Lord, there is no need to play with the serpentine demon, who is always very skilled in conjuring tricks and is arrogant, self-sufficient, and most wicked. No one is unhappy when a serpent is killed. It is a practice among village boys to catch a serpent by the tail and play with it for some time and then kill it. Similarly, the Lord could have killed the demon at once, but he played with him the same way as a child plays with a snake before killing it. Brahma requested, however, that since the demon was more wicked and undesirable than a serpent, there was no need to play with him. It was his wish that he be killed at once without delay. Text 25. Nayavat yesha vardeta swam velam prapya darunaha swam deva mayam ashtaya tavat chahi agam achyuta. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Brahma continued, My dear Lord, you are infallible. Please kill this sinful demon before the demoniac hour arrives and he presents another formidable approach favorable to him. You can kill him by your internal potency without doubt. Text 26, no purport. Text 26. Yesha Goratama Sandhya Lokacham Bat Karit Prabho Upasarpati Sarvatman Suranam Jayam Avaha. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. My Lord, the darkest evening which covers the world is fast approaching. Since you are the soul of all souls, kindly kill him and win victory for the demigods. No purport. Text 27. Adunaisho Vijinnama Yogo Muhurtiko Yagad Shivaya Nastvam Suhridam Ashu Nistara Dustaram. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The auspicious period known as Abhijit, which is most opportune for victory, commenced at midday and has all but passed. Therefore, in the interest of your friends, please dispose of this formidable foe quickly. No purport. Text 28. Dishtya tvam vihitam mrityum ayam as sadhita swayam vikram yainam mride hatva lokan adehi sharmani. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. This demon, luckily for us, has come of his own accord to you. His death ordained by you. Therefore, exhibiting your ways, kill him in the duel and establish the worlds in peace. No purpose. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the third canto, 18th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Battle Between Lord Boar and the Demon Hiranyaksha. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjan Salakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamahyam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Rupatakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatanditam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Saddutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Narita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Ushabhanishite Devi Pranamami Haripriye Mancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kapasnubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So in verse number 24, we see that Lord Brahma is offering prayers to the Lord. He says there is no need to play with this serpentine demon, and because he's very skilled in conjuring tricks, he's arrogant, he's self-sufficient, and most wicked. So these are some of the qualities of the demons that are mentioned in this translation. And Srila Prabhupada mentions in his purport that an example is given where children play with a snake and then finally after some time they kill it. So here Brahma is praying that now it is time for you to kill him and you don't play with him anymore. So why? Because he says that demons are generally very wicked. They play a lot of conjuring tricks, arrogant, self-sufficient, and most wicked. So we'll see some of these points. Now, demons as such, they are all very wicked by nature. And they play a lot of tricks which are very difficult for anybody to understand except unless and until somebody is very spiritually very powerful. Now, we see in the history of Ramayana and Mahabharata also how Kaikeyi was poisoned by her maid servant Manthara. Now, until she poisoned, Kaikeyi had the same affection to Lord Rama, rather more to Rama than her own son Bharata. But the moment when Manthara heard that, yes, Rama is going to be enthroned, immediately she poisoned this Kaikeyi. She said, don't you know that what is happening, that your son is not going to be crowned as king, Lord Rama is going to be crowned as king? To which actually Kaikeyi replied, I'm very happy that you see that Rama has been is going to be enthroned as king. What more can be there happier than this? But then gradually this maidservant, she started poisoning in such a way that you will be lost, your position will be lost, your son will be nowhere. So this way she tried to poison in such a way that Kaikeyi got carried away. And then she started thinking. And finally, the mantra said that, you see, there are two benedictions that you have got. And you better use these two benedictions now of asking your son Bharata to be crowned as king and send Lord Rama to exile for 13 years plus 1 year. So the point is that Kaikeyi, who had a lot of love and affection for Lord Rama, got poisoned in no time to such an extent that Mantra convinced her, and she got convinced and she played this trick also. So the point is that many times the demons are so powerful that they can play these tricks and even convince anybody. Similarly, we see in Mahabharata where Shakuni arranged a dice game in such a way that the Pandavas lose. And he managed to convince Dhritarashtra And Dhritarashtra also got convinced because he had some attachment for his son. So demoniac people normally have attachment to uh, 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 body, attachment to property. Dhritarashtra had attachment for his son. So with the result that he also became a victim of the poisoning done by Shakuni. And finally, they arranged in such a way that the Pandavas come play the dice game and they lose also. And then they are sent into the forest. But then what happened in both the cases is that in the case of Ramayana, Bharata ruled in exile, which would not have happened in the other case. And in the case of Mahabharata, the Pandavas came back and then they ruled thereafter, and Duryodhana was killed. So the point is that demons are always playing these tricks, which is very difficult to understand. And here, Srila Prabhupada mentions that they are also very, very arrogant, self-sufficient, and most wicked. So the arrogance is such that even if anybody tries to convince them, no, 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 this is not right, then they will never be convinced, and which has happened in both the cases. Duryodhana was also very arrogant, and Kaikeyi also was brought to such a level of arrogance. Here is also mentioned about self-sufficient. Actually, self-sufficient here actually means that they consider themselves to be sufficient enough. They don't depend on the Lord. Whereas devotees of the Lord, they are always dependent on the Lord. They take shelter of the Lord. And also mention about most wicked. This is what they do because they are wicked by nature. They employ a lot of tricks. So the point is that in today's situation, if we see, we might not see many demons which are physical, who are physical by nature, but there are many who propagate so many things in the name of atheism. Uh, and devotees also have difficulty in going and preaching to these uh, philosophers. So the point is that we have to be very careful in our preaching activity in a way that we don't get carried away by the demoniac nature of these atheists. At the same time, we remain strong, firmly fixed in our sadhana. Then the following sloka, Brahma continues that you are infallible. Please kill this sinful demon because the demoniac, before the demoniac hour arrives and presents another formidable approach favorable to him, you can kill him by your internal potency. Now we see here there is a mention about an auspicious time or the Abhijit hour. Abhijit hour is actually is a muhurta, what we call, and this muhurta lasts for about 48 minutes. Now normally we have heard about Brahma Muhurta in our day-to-day life. This Brahma Muhurta is something like 1.5 hours before the sunrise. Exactly, it is 1 hour 28 minutes. I'm not into astrology, but then it's somewhere around 1 hour 28 minutes before the rise of the sun. And it varies day to day depending on the time of the sunrise. Like that, there are many muhurtas, and these muhurtas are auspicious for certain things. Like, for example, in the Brahma Muhurta, it is said that if you get up, your mind is very fresh, and whatever activities you do, your mind can take it. That is why Srila Prabhupada always mentions that devotees should get up, wake up in the early morning during the Brahma Muhurta. Not only for devotees, I happened to read an article where I remembered some time back that even if we see there are many, many smart people or intelligent people, even the materialistic platform, they're all ones who get up at 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, like that. Why? Because these are the times when the mind is fresh, and whatever we do, uh, remains there. Thereafter, then after this time is passed, then a lot of other things happen and they keep disturbing. So that is how this muhurta works. The Abhijit Muhurta, actually, I picked up some points. is mentioned in verse number 27. Yes, verse number 27. This is the most auspicious hour of the day after the Brahma Muhurta. In the sense, it is uh, a time period in which some auspicious activities are performed, and we don't perform any inauspicious things during this particular time. So it is a time when these planets are situated in a very positive situation. Uh, the setting of all the planets, all the stars are very, very good for any activity to be performed. Now, it is said that this is also a science, which is true, but I'm not into that. But then, if we see a lot of points that are mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam itself, it is said that this muhurta lasts for about 48 minutes, and it is generally the marriages and other rituals take place during this period. Now, we might think that why devotees should look at this. Now, it is a science which is true. So when we do something auspicious during this particular time, it has got favorable results. Whereas what happens is that here there's mention about how Brahma is insisting in the slokas 26, 27 and all. He says that before the demoniac hour arises, that means the night time is when normally the demons are very, very active and they become powerful. But during the daytime, the devotees are active and the demigods are active. And within this daytime also, Brahma Muhurta, Abhijit Muhurta, they are all very, very auspicious. Now, examples are given that Yudhishthira's birth happened at the Abhijit Muhurta. It is said that Lord Rama's coronation and his marriage to Sita Devi also happened at Abhijit Muhurta. And other examples are like Vamanadev appeared during Abhijit Muhurta. That is when all the stars and planets are situated in the most favorable position. Now, for the lordships, it is not that the Lord appears at a time when all these planets and stars are situated in a favorable position. But generally, when the Lord appears, all the planets and the stars themselves take up a very favorable position. It is just to show, yes, yes. But at the same time, we don't go too much into it that tomorrow, if we want to do Kirtan also, we depend on Abhijit Muhurta. So that should not be our attitude. But at the same time, if we do something auspicious like a ritual, it is generally advised because they give positive results. Whereas inauspicious things are not done at inauspicious times. So Vamanadev appeared at Abhijit Muhurta. Then, yeah. On our day-to-day affair and works and all these things, it is mentioned that we should not be depending too much on astrology. But at the same time, it's a sign that we should respect, and the demigods who are in charge for each of these. So we respect them, but we don't get involved too much into it. But rituals could be performed. Example is given, for example, a farmer may plant seeds, but he may plant seeds he has to plant seeds just before the rains come. Now, it does not mean that when he plants, immediately the rain comes. Rain may also get delayed. So there are so many other factors that are involved when we do any activity, but one can have a basic understanding of the science and then uh, do our activity without getting too much involved into this particular science. And of course, Kali Yuga, it is said that nobody is perfect in understanding the science also, but we respect it. We don't, because it's also from the Lord only. Now, in the subsequent verses, it is mentioned how the Brahma is continuing to pray. Now, Brahma is continuing to pray so that the Lord may kill this demon, because the demon can become very powerful during the night time. Even demigods are afraid of these demons, because they also have some sort of an attachment to their position. Now, we can understand ourselves that if we are a little bit opulent, generally, we may, even if we believe in Krishna or we believe in God, we may not be taking shelter of the Lord all the time. So those are times when we may even forget, and we think that we are the ones who are capable, or we are the ones who are the cause of everything. But whatever happens to anybody, whether it is a atheist, whether it is a devotee, everything happens by the will of the Lord. Nothing can happen independently. If a atheist thinks, yes, I am an atheist, there is no God, then the Lord gives him, the Lord as seated as Paramatma, inspires him to think, yes, God does not exist. But at the same time, if a person thinks, yes, God is there, but he has no form, the Lord as Paramatma seated inside inspires that person, and he becomes a Mayavada, who believe, generally don't believe, they believe in God, but they believe that the Lord does not have any form. And if somebody thinks that, yes, Lord has got a form, and then he associates with devotees of the Lord also inspires to give him the association of devotees, so that he can understand, yes, Lord has got a form, and these are various forms of the Lord to whom one can pray. So the constitutional position of a soul, of a living entity, is to be a servant of the Supreme Lord. Even when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there during his pastimes, he instructed Sanatana Goswami, which is mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Jivera Swarupa Hoy Krishnera Nityadasa, Krishnera Tatashta Shakti Beda Beda Prakasha. So the translation is, it is the living entity's constitutional position to be an eternal servant of Krishna, because he is the marginal energy of Krishna, and a manifestation simultaneously one and different from the Lord. Just like a particle of sunshine or fire. Fire has got, uh, if we see many sparks, here Prabhupada always give the example of sparks around a fire. Now, if we see there are many, many small, small sparks around a fire, as long as they are near the fire, the sparks can be seen. But the moment they get separated from the fire, then they are invisible. So similarly, we are one with the Lord, at the same time we are different from the Lord, in the sense that in terms of quality, we have the same quality, but then we are, in terms of quantity, the Lord is uh, uh, Vibhu and we are Anu, that we are very small. So this way, the Lord has got three potencies: internal potency, external potency, and marginal potency. And Brahma is praying to the Lord that the Lord can kill him by his internal potency without doubt. Now, the thing is, whatever the Lord does, now, for example, in this case itself, I have mentioned in the previous classes that Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu were also devotees of the Lord. But the Lord wanted to perform his pastimes in the material world. And also the Lord had this rasa called Virya rasa, that is chivalry. So the Lord is not going to come here to the material world and fight with you and me or with anybody else, a common atheistic person in the street. So the Lord made arrangements for the satisfaction of both these desires. So Jaya and Vijaya also had this desire to fulfill the desire of the Lord, which was chivalry rasa. And so the Lord sent them to this material world, and the Lord displayed this pastime with devotees. So, which is an internal potency of the Lord. So that's why Brahma prays here to kill this demon through his internal potency. And then following sloka in 26 is that uh, this will bring victory for the demigods. That, like I mentioned, demigods also have some attachment for their position, power, and also this position and power is something that's very difficult for even devotees to give up. Demigods are devotees of the Lord, but then we'll see in the case of Govardhan Puja, we see so many cases. All these cases in the demigods, they are also sometimes they become puffed up because of their position, their power, the opulence, and so many things. So it is very difficult for devotees also to remain in that situation, being to be detached. So pure devotees of the Lord generally are detached from all these opulences. So that is what is the position that we should try and attain. May not be very easy. It might take time. But the point is that unless and until we become free from any desire of any sort, we have to continue to remain in this material world. This is the most important thing. Now, uh, ultimately, what binds us here is even a tinge. It is said that I had heard a class some time back that even if we have a desire to go to a spiritual world, that is also a desire for our sense gratification or for our own this thing. But and that can keep us bound in this material world. But if we have to become free and go back, we should be desireless, and our only desire should be to keep the Lord happy and satisfied. So this is one important point. And then in the 27th sloka, he says that dispose of this formidable foe quickly. The more we put ourselves into the hands of demoniac people, the more difficult they put us into difficult situations. So that is why here Brahma is praying that we should not let Krishna should not let this demon play for a very long time. Rather, he should be disposed of quickly. The point is that even when our day-to-day life, we see people and with whom, if we become too friendly, a materialistic person, they will continue to play with us in such a way that our devotional service might go. So we have to be very careful that we do preaching also, but at the same time, we don't get entangled into them, their affairs. And the last sloka, there is 28, text 28. Brahma is praying that this demon has come of his own accord and his death is ordained by you. Therefore, exhibiting your ways, kill him in the duel and establish the world in peace. So, the Lord Himself states in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 7, Yada yada hi dharmasya jnanir bhavati bharata abhyuttanam adharmasya tadatmanam shrihamyaham. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice or descendant of Bharata, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I designed myself. So whenever there is a decline in religious principles and increase in demoniac principles, that is the time then the Lord appears to establish religion. And here this mention about establish the worlds in peace. So the world is totally disturbed because of these demons. And this is what is exhibited by this particular pastime also, that demons are always present. They were present. They are present. They were present. They are present. They will continue to be present. And as we proceed in Kali Yuga, day by day, things are only deteriorating. It is not going to get better. It is going to get worse. So if we have to be peaceful, we have to be determined in the religious principles, and uh, for which we have to take shelter of the Lord. There is no other option but to take shelter of the Lord all the time. There are some very nice examples which I picked up. in our preaching exercise, we might generally find different types of atheists. One type of atheist is that God does not exist, which is very common. One type of atheism is that God exists, but after creation, he loses his position as God. Like this, also, we might find many who propagate this. The third one is God exists, but I will kill God. I mean, we start thinking that I'm more powerful than God. And then the last one, which is called the Mayavada philosophy, is I and God are one. There is no difference between me and Krishna or God. So these are different types of atheism which we might see on a day-to-day basis, and we have to be careful in a way that we don't get involved with them, but at the same time we continue to preach our philosophy. The other important references which I picked up was from Srimad Bhagavatam as to how even demigods, when they are attached, the Lord brings them to a point of becoming fearful. Why? Because the demigod should not become uh, start thinking that they have become God, or they have become powerful, or they have become opulent. So there is a nice quote in Srimad Bhagavatam, third canto, which says, out of fear of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the directing demigods in charge of the modes of material nature carry out the functions of creation, maintenance, and destruction. Everything animate and inanimate within this material world is under their control. So that means even the demigods, who are supposed to be great devotees of the Lord, even their activities are conducted only by the mercy of the Lord. Their position that which, I mean, demigods are all generally positions, posts, which are given to a living entity. We are, it's mentioned that we also can get the position of Brahma. I read somewhere that if we observe, if one observes Varnasrama system for 100 births, one can become Brahma. So one can get the position of a Brahma or Indra or Chandra by performance of auspicious activities. So, but even at that position of Lord Brahma, it is here mentioned that they also have fear for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the Lord brings the living entities, like even demigods, to a situation where they are fearful and they cannot do anything without the mercy of the Lord. There's another quote in fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where it says, Manu prays. He says, my dear boy Dhruva, please surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the ultimate goal of the progress of the world. Everyone, including the demigods headed by Brahma, is working under his control, just as a bull prompted by a rope in its nose is controlled by the owner. See, when we go on the road, we might see many times a bull is tied around its nose with a rope. And the person who is taking the bull, he wants to take it, he knows how to turn the bull to, whether to go straight or turn left or turn right. He pulls the strings and accordingly the bull changes its direction of movement. Similarly, the example is given that even demigods headed by Lord Brahma are working under the control of the Supreme Lord. They cannot be independent of the Supreme Lord at any point of time. So this is one important point which I found. There is one more point that which I picked up. It says that Sita Devi represents Bhakti, whereas the Ramanas are like demons. They are demons. So if we have Bhakti, it is by the mercy of Sita Devi. But what happens is that many Ravanas come in our path in disguise to take it away. That means even from the time we enter the path of devotional service, we don't know how long we'll be here. But the point is that right from the moment we take up this path of devotional service, we find many Ravanas coming in our life. It may be in the form of our friends, it may be in the form of relatives, it may be in the form of the circle of people to whom, with whom we are involved in. For example, those who are working these days, the work atmosphere is very, very highly materialistic. So all these are different types of Ramanas who come in disguise. We may not even realize, yes, they are coming to us in disguise. But the thing is, they may come, and then if we are not very firmly fixed, then what happens is that even our devotion service, they might take it away. So one has to be very, very careful. And the last point is mentioned here is that the Lord is called Achyuta. We are all Chuta, or we are fallible, whereas because our body, our activities are within the three modes of material nature, and depending on the karma and the three modes of material nature we are in, we get bodies. Whereas the Lord is addressed as Achyuta, or infallible. So even if the Lord appears in this material world, the Lord's body is not conditioned by the three modes of material nature, nor does he have anything to do with his karma. The Lord is transcendent to the three modes of material nature, and the Lord is also free of karma. So that is why his name is addressed as Achyuta. Whereas we are Chuta because there is a tendency in us to fall down into this material platform. And that is why we are also called the marginal potency, because internal potency is transcendental, whereas we are in the marginal potency. That means we can be in the spiritual. Our identity is both spiritual. At the same time, in this material world, we are identifying ourselves as this material body. That's why we are called marginal. So these are the points I had for today's class. So I can take some questions and comments if you have any. Hare Krishna. The devotees have any questions, any comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Oh, as we were saying in the class, like one should be desireless.
Yes.
So how is it possible, Prabhu? Even like normally, if not materialistic, even if we have a spiritual desire.
Yes.
So is it any wrong in that, Prabhu? How do you understand this, please?
Even if you have a spiritual desire, if it is a desire to satisfy the Lord, that spiritual desire is okay. But if you have a spiritual desire, which is the goal is end is material. For example, I've seen many devotees. They want to show to the others that they are doing devotional service. Now, it depends on how he thinks. Now, if the goal is to satisfy the Lord, then it's a different aspect. For example, on festivals, see, devotees many times come for doing devotional service. When there is a festival, they'll somehow show up their face. They want to do this, they want to do that, they want to do Abhishekam, they want. But on the other days, when actually there is service is something that is an ongoing thing. Service to the Lord doesn't stop only with festivals. It's just an example. So the other example is that, okay, I want to go to Goloka Vrindavana. Now, that is also a desire for our satisfaction, not that, okay, I want to be with the Lord to serve the Lord for the Lord's happiness. So any such desire, which is might look spiritual, but internally, if we have a desire for our own self, that can keep us bound in this material world. So this is a point I heard.
So to have a desire to please the Lord also is like a sort of desire only.
Yeah, if we have a desire to please the Lord, then it is okay. But if you have a desire to be satisfied for yourself, then that is not a spiritual desire. It depends on how you actually. Now, we can't understand the other person's what is in this thing. But one should be always thinking in his mind, yes, I'm doing this for the pleasure of the Lord. I'm doing this for the Lord to be happy, not for me to be happy. When we practice, when this attitude comes, then we might think, see, in the case of Jaya Vijaya also, if we see they were all, the two doorkeepers, they were serving the Lord. Why should they come and appear as demons? Because the Lord wanted them to help in fulfillment of his desire. So tomorrow, if Krishna wants us to be here, for example, even if you see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's this thing, that this golden age of Kali Yuga, Sankirtan will be there. So tomorrow, if our spiritual master wants us to come and do preaching here, can we say, no, how can I come here? I don't want to come here and struggle. So if the Lord wishes, we should be prepared to do anything for the Lord's satisfaction. That should be the desire that we should have. Not that, oh, I'm doing for myself. That is not a spiritual desire. It will be there in the initial stages, but one should gradually reach a point where the Lord is satisfied with our service. So wherever he sends, tomorrow if we have to go to hellish planets and preach, we should be prepared to do that also for the satisfaction of the Lord. After all, who comes here and preaches? Devotees come and preach, isn't it? So devotees also may have to come and play some role here, if not now, in future. So for which our desire should be, okay, for the satisfaction of the Lord, I'm prepared to do anything, even give up my own life. It is said that the gopis had no other desire but to keep the Lord happy. So that is that stage of devotional service that we should all aim at. And if the desire is genuine within us, the Lord will facilitate that also. Why not? Did I answer your question?
Yeah, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. So one more question I had, like,
Yes,
as you were telling the class, the auspicious time, like, which we look at.
Yes.
And normally we see, Prabhu, like, sometimes, like, we may be having this, we may be thinking this is not, this is inauspicious time. But in some other religion, people will think that they will do all the things, auspicious thing at that time. So is
Okay.
it that how do we understand that do they conquer or do something like that? Do they falsely think like that? Because, I've seen normally when we say, suppose we say, say for example, like we say this is the time, this is Rao Kala, something like that, maybe.
Yes.
Like that. But for some other reason that they do all sort of activities at that time itself, they consider that is auspicious time. So how do we understand this, probably?
Like I mentioned, Rahu Kalam also is a part of the science, which may be true. Now, what a common man does, we don't get involved into it. But as devotees, we should respect that science. But at the same time, we should not think, oh, I have to go and preach. Let me not do it in Rahu Kalam. It's a devotion service for the pleasure of the Lord. So we should be prepared to do that also, even if it's a Rahu Kalam. We cannot say it is Rahu Kalam, so I will not have prasadam. So what I meant is that we should respect the science as such, but at the same time, we don't get involved into it to such an extent that we become what you call, I'm thinking of the right word, sentimental, in the sense that I will not do anything, even devotion service at the time of Rahu Kalam. See, the Lord doesn't have it to do anything with this Abhijit Havar, but still he showed an example that Abhijit Havar also is to be respected. But at the same time, it is mentioned that when the Lord appears, all the planets and stars locate themselves in very auspicious positions. So that's what I mentioned. We should not get entangled into this science, which is true. But at the same time, we keep performing, and our sadhana, irrespective of whatever it is, our devotion service does not depend on this Rahu Kala. I'll give another example. We wake up the Lord generally in the temple by about 4:20, 4:10, like that. And then our activities generally in the afternoon starts from 4:30 onwards. We open the curtains and other thing. We don't say it is Rahu Kalam, so I will not open the curtain. You understand the point? We do our service, but we don't get entangled into that. But at the same time, we respect it. We don't disrespect. Oh, no. How can it be? Because it's a science. So one has to be very sensitive to all these subject matters.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Danda Pranam. Jai.
Wonderful. Anybody else? Any other questions, comments? If not, can I take the class as concluded, Prabhu? Can I leave? Hare Krishna. Can I leave, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Danda Pranam. Yeah, if there are no questions, we can end.
Okay. Thank you all very much. Granthar Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.